Prices were rising in the United States. I didn't hear CNN talking about that much. As a matter of fact, you ignored most of it while it was hurting the American people. So let the president negotiate on tariff policy. That is what he's doing, and it's going to work out to the better. You didn't cover it the way it needed to be covered. Let's just be perfectly honest.
Okay, well, that's a matter of opinion.
You let the last administration get away with it, but the American people suffered as a result.
But
no, it's not my opinion. That's a fact.
Okay, no, it's not a fact. Congressman Byron Donald.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel with your man Wise, and we have to check out this interview. My favorite representative, my favorite person in Congress, Byron Donalds, absolutely puts the smackdown on the Communist News Network, also known as CNN. Oh my goodness, man, these people are insufferable. We're gonna watch this daggone interview. He puts on a masterclass. Congressman Byron Donalds is the guy. He is that guy. Like, share, subscribe to the channel, turn the notifications on so you never miss an upload. If you'd like to go the extra mile and support the channel, join the ARP family. Join us on the live Monday through Friday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern, or you can buy your man a coffee. Link in the description box below. Let's get into it.
Republican Congressman Byron Donalds of Florida, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it. So I just laid out the numbers for you and talked about that economic data as well. Does it concern you at all that Trump and Musk's efficiency initiatives are impacting the economy in this way?
Let's be clear about the numbers that you're reporting. The reason why the job growth numbers are down is because government workers are the ones who are starting to lose their job at the federal level. And it needs to be understood that under the previous administration, they increased the government workforce really in ways that are unsustainable. So what is happening here in Washington is getting the federal government under control so we can get spending under control. And the number one way you get inflation in an economy is overspending at the federal level. So yes, we have to shrink the federal government. It has to live within its means. That's what the American people have to do every day. But the other elements of our economy are very, very strong, and they're going to remain that way.
But the consumer sentiment is down. It's the lowest it's been in 3.5 years. Spending is down. Certain prices are up. The leader of that study on the economy says what we're seeing is the Doge effect on those numbers. I just spoke to Mark Short, who worked for Trump the first term, and he said Trump's tariff policy is undermining his goals on the economy. What do you say to that?
Well, what I say is that tariff policy is one piece of the overall economic picture. Tariff policy is one thing. You have deregulation at the federal level, which is critical for the future health of our economy. The last administration laid $2 trillion of regulation on the economy and then tried to backfill it with stimulus packages and government hires.
It was other issues as well. It wasn't just $2 trillion.
It was $2 trillion. Listen, I know the facts. It was $2 trillion.
I looked it up because I've heard you say that in other interviews.
It was $2 trillion in regulations that the Biden administration layered on our economy, coupled with massive overspending, which created inflation. That created the picture that we are in today. So what we have to do is, yes, cut regulations. We're going to pass the president's tax agenda, which is reauthorizing his tax policy, and also become energy dominant. Those are the things of how you create the environment for a thriving economy that grows on its own, as opposed to relying on government stimulus and government jobs.
Just to be clear, it was regulations and broader spending initiatives for that $2 trillion number. But you said this in September 2024, quote,
I got a question to you guys in the comment section. Why do these legacy media hacks feel like they have to defend the policies of the Democrat Party? Why? Isn't the Democrats' job, isn't it their job to defend their piss poor policies? Why do legacy media feel like that's their job?
The core issues facing the American people are the cost of food and housing. I just spoke to a farmer who says American farmers are being hammered by Trump's policies right now, and that will only cause the price of food for Americans to go up. I want you to listen to what he said and respond to him.
Mayor Wu, in the city of Boston, how much did you spend?
We don't ask about immigration status and delivering.
Really, this is a state of emergency for America's farmers right now. You put in all of this chaos, and that's what this is. The president came right into office and caused a whole lot of chaos. I'm going to say this 99%, especially white American and white farmers, voted for this president. And here he is making us pay the piper here at the beginning of our planting season.
Obviously, ignore the first part of that.
Before Congressman Donalds answered the question, first off, the clip was a mess. I don't even understand how he answers the question. But what is this farmer upset about? Is he upset that they're getting rid of the illegal immigrants? Illegal immigrants aren't working on these farms, that they're paying pennies if they're paying them anything at all? Is that what he's upset about? Is he upset that he no longer has the free or cheap labor that they once had during the Biden-Harris administration? Is that the case? Because if that is the case, it's wrong. And some of the people with the same type of melanin as this guy, are quick to talk about, things that happened, well over 100 years ago. But it seems like these same people seem to be okay with it happening today as long as it's not them. Man, make that make sense.
That was you. But how do you answer this farmer who said the president hasn't made food prices a top priority, as he said he would do?
What I would say is that when you have to unwind the terrible inflation from the previous administration, you have to go through several processes, like I've laid out. The first piece is what DOJ is doing, giving Congress a list of areas where we can make immediate cuts to the betterment of our economy and to the American consumer. When you massively overspend federally, you inject more dollars into the system, you create inflation. That's the way it works. That's what Joe Biden did. We have to squeeze that out. Tariff policy is a piece of that that's raising revenue into our coffers through other means than just raising taxes to help stabilize the federal balance sheet here on Capitol Hill. So those things work together. And so I think it's important for people to understand as we work through the changes that our economy needs, it will create a more stable economy that grows organically with its own efforts as opposed to being reliant on government stimulus. More government stimulus is only going to yield more inflation. And that's not going to be to the help of that farmer in particular or any other American.
Well, we'll be closely tracking this, as you heard from that farmer. Right now, that uncertainty is causing some of these issues that we're seeing in the economy, according to this farmer and others we've spoken to. But we'll wait and we'll watch and see what happens. I want to note, you just officially announced you're running for governor of Florida. And I want to ask you about some of the Floridians that you'll be trying to win over. Those would be veterans. The administration is planning on cutting around 70,000 jobs at the VA. Can you assure each and every one of the nearly 1.5 million veterans in Florida that cuts to the VA won't affect them?
Absolutely. And let's be very clear. The VA has been an albatross of an agency. It is heavily bureaucratic. A lot of our veterans aren't getting the care that they need in a timely fashion. And that's because of how bureaucratized the VA has become. Let's talk clearly to everybody. If you have a bureaucratic delivery system that's not meeting the needs of veterans, should we change that? And the answer is yes. So cleaning out the waste at VA actually will help our veterans be able to get their care faster. And one of the things that we've been trying to do for a long time, and the same bureaucracy has been stopping it, and Donald Trump did this in his first term, is let veterans get the health care they need anywhere in the healthcare economy, not just the VA. You know what the stopgap is? The fact that the VA still hasn't figured out how to digitize medical records in an era when people can digitize any document on their cell phone right now. I can do it right now for you. I can get something in by email and PDF it and email it to you if you wanted to. We can do that with generally people using their cell phones, but the VA is too much of a bureaucratic state, can't figure it out. So change is needed, and that will help veterans.
All right.
He's absolutely right. There's actually been a contract that's been bid on multiple times on that right there. How are they going to digitize these daggone records? Now, if any of you guys know anything about the old way that they housed, these records, they were using this old, what do you call it? Mainframe system that houses all of this information. And I got to give the people who created it credit, because they created a system that does not make it easy for you to transfer data out of the system, migrating that data into something else. It does not make it difficult, and it does not communicate well with systems outside of the system that has been created for the VA. And this is the same case for Social Security Administration and some of these other older federal government departments. And it's a mess. And if any of you guys are veterans, you already know when you go down to the VA, you got to get anything done with them or try to get anything accomplished. Good luck, because it's not going to happen overnight. They are slower than molasses. This phrase is slow as molasses. They are slower than molasses. It takes forever to get anything. But again, there's no incentive for these people to do their job at a high level. There's just no incentive. So you kind of get what you pay for. And because these people know that they can't be fired, so forth and so on, there's no real incentive for them to do anything quick, fast, in a hurry. Congressman Donalds is absolutely right, man. They need to create the system to where veterans that need care, they can use that and go anywhere. But we also have to create a system that when these people go to maybe a privatized, healthcare provider, that because they have government, type insurance, they don't get taken advantage of, very similar to what happens with Medicaid, Medicare. I mean, let's just keep it a buck.
Right. Well, we will be watching this issue closely as well. And it sounds like you're trying to hint at potentially privatizing more of this. But we've seen issues with that as well. But we'll continue that conversation next time you're on. I want to ask you about this breaking news just coming into CNN that Trump just announced that Mexico will not be required to pay tariffs on any products that fall under the USMCA agreement. He did this, quote, out of respect for the Mexican president. Was Trump's back and forth tariff decision the right call, especially given the volatility of markets? We just heard from that farmer, too, who said the tariff back and forth is just causing mass uncertainty. Businesses hate that. You know that.
Well, look, I'm going to repeat myself a little bit here.
Okay.
It is important that we stabilize not just our economic relationships around the globe, but also the fact that we got to secure our border and we got to stop the flow of fentanyl. Give Donald Trump the opportunity to actually negotiate with the Mexican president and with Canada and with China. You got to give him that opportunity, because when prices were rising in the United States, I didn't hear CNN talking about that much. As a matter of fact, you ignored most of it while it was hurting the American people. So let the president negotiate on tariff policy. That is what he's doing, and it's going to work out to the better. You didn't cover it the way it needed to be covered. Let's just be perfectly honest.
Okay, well, that's a matter of opinion.
You let the last administration get away with it, but the American people suffered as a result.
But
no, it's not my opinion. That's a fact.
Okay, no, it's not a fact. Congressman Byron Donalds, thank you for coming on to share your points of view. We appreciate your time.
Wow, masterclass. And he's absolutely right. CNN did not cover the disastrous moves that the Biden-Harris administration implemented that caused the situation, the inflation that we're dealing with right now. You got to think about this, man. In 2022, the U.S. economy had its second quarter of negative growth, which technically would be considered a recession. CNN failed to cover it, and then they turned around and changed the definition of what a recession is. That's what CNN and MSDNC and other legacy media outlets chose to do. And the thing is, if you guys know anything about 22 is the year that the layoffs started. So you had layoffs in, they started in 21. You had layoffs in 21. You had another really big rounds of layoffs in 22. And then you had another round of layoffs in 23. And then things kind of stabilized, but then you had more layoffs in 24. If you guys recall, last summer, they had weeks where over 1 million people filed for unemployment on a Friday. They had multiple weeks like that. But the media did not want to talk about it. The other thing, all these jobs, the reason why all these workers are on probation right now within the federal government is because the Biden-Harris administration, through their piss poor policies, caused all of these layoffs. You had the banking issue that happened in 2023, which spurred another round of layoffs in different companies. And what the government decided to do is, hey, we'll just hire these people so it doesn't make the numbers look as bad. That's what happened. And that's why you have all these people that have been hired by the federal government, but they're probationary workers. It's because the previous administration, to juke the numbers, for lack of better words, decided that they're going to hire, 1 or 2 million people. The federal government should never be the number one employer anywhere. The federal government should not be the number one employer in the country or in any state. It just shouldn't be. But shout out to Byron Donalds, man. He is showing every time he steps out in front of a camera why he's worthy of being governor of Florida, and why he has the potential to become a vice president or president of the United States. Shout out to that brother right there, man. I appreciate everybody that pulled up today. Keep God first in your life. Stay prayed up. We'll catch up with you all next time. Peace.
Vibes so raw, can't hide the